I'm not going to start off like most and waste time talking about how many hours I've sunk into Killing Floor 1, 2, or other similar titles. I know a lot of players who love this series, and just like the steady decline of the Payday franchise, it has been met with its fair share of issues based on developer neglect. Unfortunately, this is something that is occurring more and more often. If you remember Killing Floor 2's release, it was just as bare bones as Killing Floor 3 is now. It took a long time for the game to build up to what it eventually became. The problem with this development model is that it creates a divide. You are paying for the idea of a game that has not been fully realized yet. In short, early access or just an unfinished product. When it launches as a full-price product with stripped features, weaker gameplay, worse matchmaking, and content or weapons that are missing from previous entries, you start asking yourself, what the hell is going on and why am I supporting this? Is it because I'm bored out of my mind? Is it because I'm a massive fan? Everybody has their own reasons. I'll say this up front, I am not a Killing Floor diehard. I played it when I was interested, then I moved on like I do with most games that don't fully click. So coming into Killing Floor 3, I am giving it my usual fair shake, being unbiased and not influenced by any previous factors. Within the first few hours, I felt a lot of negativity building up from it, mainly due to its instability and a severe lack of customization across the board, with matchmaking, a lack of text-based communication, and just a general sportsmanship from everybody that I seem to run into, which for a game on release tends to be a lot more negative until they move on. Starting out, I didn't have any problems with the tutorial or the solo play. Everything ran smoothly enough despite the many crashes that I did experience, one of which crashed my entire desktop for half an hour. But the moment I jumped into multiplayer, it felt like stepping into a Call of Duty lobby. Open mics, constant clicking, clacking, breathing, and a whole lot of trash talk, simply for playing the game and not doing what somebody else demanded of you. What stood out the most was the attitude. We were just a group of level 1s and 4s playing out hard mode, nothing too serious. Then in walks a level 25 player who immediately starts complaining that we were underleveled and actively ruining the gameplay experience for everybody else.
Y'all ruined the game by being level 1, by the way, just saying. On hard difficulty. Yeah, I'm not gonna play this bullshit with y'all. Fuck up.
Okay, except the scoreboard told a different story. Damage, kills, deaths, revives. Nothing here suggested that any of us were dragging anybody down. In fact, I feel like this game has a really balanced form for both sides. Nothing seemed unfair. We just wanted a challenge over normal mode, and we didn't want to play Hell on Earth difficulty because we would actually be putting people down if we went there. I could understand being pissed about that difficulty because that is clearly meant for endgame, with high-level weapon crafting and maxed out operators, but this wasn't that. To put it into perspective, I never touched the perk system until I was level 10, and hard mode wasn't that difficult. Like, everybody was doing the same amount of damage unless one person in particular was hogging up all of the kills, just the issue with people spreading out too much and not communicating their positions or dropping markers while funneling or simply playing nothing but one class in particular because those classes seemed more interesting. It's not like Killing Floor 2 wasn't toxic, but the biggest issue with Killing Floor currently is that the game offers no way to tailor your own experience. You are held at gunpoint when you are shoved into whatever lobby is available for you, whether you like it or not. There's no kicking, no grief protection, etc. And somehow this default survival mode ends up being more hostile than it has any right to be. Most lobbies will paint the same picture: elitist gatekeeping from players who act more bitter than engaged, disgruntled FPS players drained from years of playing degrading shooters, jumping into a new space just to vent out their frustration on unsuspecting communities. Then, like clockwork, they crawl back to Call of Duty Black Ops or Tarkov, still chasing a joy they lost long ago, probably around the same time they forgot how to communicate normally. There are no options for region selection, no crossplay filters, no server selections, nothing. This means a mix of maxed out and new players from Japan, Europe, and North America, all of which leads to this divide between the few loud competitive and toxic gamers from all sources, that being PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. The latency and the desync were awful, but that's no surprise coming from Tripwire's track record. You're lucky enough to get a stable server. It's the same matchmaking mess Killing Floor 2 struggled with its desyncs and such. And somehow Killing Floor 3 manages to repeat the same mistakes while also offering less of everything. feeling more bare bones than ever. As my buddy Lurker mentioned, somebody who plays these games religiously,
There's a lot of people that are glorifying the game too, and it's like the sake of like, oh, well, this game came out the same way, you know, Killing Floor 2 came out. There was only 4 weapons per class. But yeah, what? But they already did that. They have. Why would they do it again? Like they've made a better game at a point. And they added more weapons. Why can't they do that again?
which is true. It is a poor excuse that a lot of people actively defend. Every single stage plays out the same. You've got 5 stages to clear, then a boss fight or multiple boss fights if you're in a full lobby against available bosses currently, that being the Chimera or the Impaler. In the 6 hours that I played, the Matriarch never once spawned because it is completely random. That's it, there's nothing else currently available. Even the weekly event, which has just a few modifiers like not being able to use your powers or gadgets, make this experience bland. I guess they have some form of a battle pass, but I don't think that justifies playing the game long term because the gameplay is just so repetitive. Every single time you start up a new game, you will run around the map shooting cameras, breaking machines, and collecting all of the resources that you can. Killing Zeds will also drop materials for your weapon crafting. But that system feels so shallow and uninteresting because the upgrade prices are steep. Because these levels are so short, and even when you manage to craft something decent, most of these weapons barely scratch any of the elites or bosses even at full upgrade. Unless you were able to land a perfect hit on their weak points, it feels unrewarding. Once again, I didn't touch the perk system for the first 10 levels and used mostly the default guns and weapons for the operator that I chose, and did nothing but play hard mode, noticing nothing different when I had actually put points into Firebug. Most of these stages were wins, unless everybody was unorganized and yelling at each other. This was what we were experiencing.
Medic, bro, you gotta start doing your job, man. Start healing motherfuckers. Jesus Christ, what the fuck? You're around like a bunch of fucking idiots. Go back to the fucking center, dude. What the fuck?
You guys freaking suck.
Yo, I was saying the same exact thing just now, man. To myself in the mic.
The game does adjust based on the player count, and to its credit, I didn't have any real issues playing alone, which is a very good sign. That being said, the AI still struggled in certain areas and clearly wasn't the brightest, which I had a lot of fun messing around with. What really got under my skin though was the movement system. It is very clunky, and you'll constantly find yourself sliding, dashing, and dodging damage consistently, only to suddenly slow to a crawl. Sometimes you're crouch walking without realizing it, and then stuck in this sluggish movement state for a moment until you fix it, which does end up getting you killed. It's hard to describe, but everything feels painfully janky and slow, whether you're vaulting over something or if you're trying to dodge damage, and it starts to wear you down fast. If you're familiar with Killing Floor 2, you know that it offered a lot more variety to its classes and extensive perks and weapon customization. That's something that Killing Floor 3 is currently missing. It only has 6 classes, and popular favorites like Berserker and Gunslinger are nowhere to be found. While it is certainly possible that these will be reintroduced later, the fact is they were not included at launch alongside so many different weapons, and that you're locked into specific roles, making Killing Floor 3 feel so much more streamlined and restrictive by comparison. Characters are currently tied to a specific class, so let's just say you wanted to play Mr. Foster. Well, you have to play the Commando class. However, I have heard that this restriction is set to be lifted in a future patch, allowing for more flexibility in choosing the characters that you want to play regardless of their classes, so that you can mix and match things to your liking. So at least it shows that they're working slowly to make things better, but that doesn't excuse a lazy release. While playing Killing Floor 3, I never had any complaints about the graphics themselves. Visually, the game holds up well compared to a lot of the other games that I've played recently. But of course, I did run into one reoccurring issue, that being GPU errors. Random crashes kept happening regardless of the settings. Even dropping everything from Ultra to the lowest possible option did not prevent this. These GPU errors were unpredictable and persistent, which made it hard to trust the game's stability over longer sessions. Killing Floor 2 had a great soundtrack. The vocals stood out, and it wasn't just a wall of instrumentals, it felt like a metalhead's dream. Zombies, chaos, and heavy riffs backed by aggressive, well-produced vocal choruses. It brought real energy to every fight. As much as I would hate to say it, Killing Floor 3 felt a bit more bland for some tracks and good for some others. The music lacked impact, it didn't carry much weight, and overall just feels lifeless in comparison. It's like the soul of the series got stripped out and replaced with some generic filler noise, which was a bit disappointing. While the game looks great, no doubt about that, visually on the surface, the gameplay is flashy enough to grab the attention of the average player. It feels like something worth picking up, but I feel like it's a bit of a trap. It's just not where it needs to be right now. Unless you're absolutely desperate for a very short, content-light zombie shooter and you've already burnt through games like Darktide, including the Arbite DLC, Helldivers 2, or Space Marines 2, there's really no compelling reason to jump into this game just yet. No matter which class that you pick, the loop is always the same. You are dropped into a stage with a group of random players or solo with no control over matchmaking or lobby filters. From there you will run around shooting out all of the cameras and machines, killing enemies along the way, maybe completing a side mission for some story lore or bonus materials, and then that's it. It's over after 5 stages, and there's nothing else you can do. Then you either start fresh with a new team or re-queue with the same group. There's no real sense of progression or variety beyond repetition because there isn't enough content here for anything other than a quick killing floor fix that doesn't feel like killing floor. It's alright if you want a chilling floor, but outside of the repetition, it's not worth it. Killing Floor 3 is a game still riding on the success of its past, while quietly shedding the early access label in hopes that you will not notice how unfinished and unpolished this game really is. It leans on outdated praise from outlets like IGN and PC Gamer to prop itself up, but if anything, that only highlights how far it's fallen. You shouldn't act like you don't know how favorable these reviews are, as they do not reflect the genuine state of the game itself 95% of the time, because it's always a sponsorship or an ad placement. The crafting system doesn't help you either. You're going to gather a ton of materials during your runs to bring them back to base, and then use them to craft attachments. Each gun currently only has a few upgradable slots for each attachment and requires its own specific components. It's a very time-consuming grind for something so mediocre. When I saw how limited it was, I didn't even bother using the weapons that I had crafted. They were expensive and took a long time to grind for, and are only useful for Hell on Earth difficulty, when fully maxed out in rarity. It felt so underwhelming and didn't feel any better than the default version, so I stuck with the basics as I never plan to or plan on tackling the highest difficulty. That's all there is right now. Short stages, no real choices, shallow systems, and flat presentation. It feels like the whole series is regressing, oversimplified to a fault. Regardless on if it does get the updates it needs in the coming months or years, it feels like the same kind of approach which took forever for Fat Shark to remedy. So it's a bit upsetting to see Tripwire do the same. It's probably going to take another 2 years before this game ever flourishes. Could I see myself returning to the game if Tripwire eventually adds back in all the basic features missing from the previous version? It's possible, but right now, there's no real pull. It's not the type of game that gives you the fear of missing out with dailies or makes you wake up thinking, man, I really want to play some Killing Floor 3 today, in which you proceed to play the game for 15 hours straight. It feels like something you boot up after a long day, zone out for 30 minutes, kill a few zombies, and log off with no spark, no lasting draw, just turn off your brain, play for a small amount, and then move on with your day. The game is riddled with bugs, frequent crashes, and a long list of issues that clearly have not been ironed out yet. It's obvious that the development has been lacking because there has been a lack of transparency, polish, and foresight that speaks volumes without needing to go into anything behind the scenes with their previous 5-year NDA of their playtest versions. I would honestly pick this game up in about a year from now. Hopefully by then it'll be in a better place. If you're into this type of repetitive grind, you may still find something to enjoy, but for many of us there's just not much here right now, and it would be a waste of your time and money when better alternatives already currently exist.